The unexpected bill arrived like a thunderclap. Thousands of dollars demanded for a parade she never controlled, threatening to destroy her beloved clinic overnight. Lisa's heart raced as she stared at the cruel injustice. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Lisa's cramped office, casting narrow slats of light over stacks of medical charts and veterinary journals. The hum of the city outside was punctuated by distant lawnmowers and bird song, a quiet soundtrack to her routine. Yet in her hands, the official-looking letter burned like a slap, cold and unyielding. Her fingers trembled as she reread the bill from the Public Works Department, the numbers sharp and unforgiving. Nearly $5,000 for traffic control. Her clinic sat on Maple Street, a modest strip of storefronts nestled along the parade route. This parade, one she had watched from her front window every year, was supposed to unite Cedarville. Veterans marching proudly, families cheering, children clutching flags. But now, the very path that brought joy and tradition was threatening to destroy her livelihood. Lisa's mind raced, each scenario more absurd than the last. How could the city charge her for a public event she didn't organize? She had no role in planning road closures, no say in the logistics of police escorts or barricades. She hadn't even closed early or changed her hours. The clinic had stayed open, as always, to care for the pets whose owners relied on her. Her heart sank with the realization that this was not a clerical error. Mark Hensley, the city's traffic coordinator, had made his stance clear in terse phone calls. Mark was a man who lived by policies and budgets, his empathy buried beneath layers of municipal protocol. To him, this was simple math. The parade required resources. Those resources had costs, and those costs must be shared. No exceptions. Not for vets, not for small businesses, not for anyone. Lisa had tried to reason with him. She explained how a small clinic like hers operated on razor-thin margins, how this unexpected expense could force her to raise prices or cut hours, driving away the very community she served. But Mark's responses were mechanical, rehearsed defenses of bureaucracy. "It's about fairness," he said. "We all contribute." Fairness. The word echoed hollowly. To Lisa, fairness meant supporting those who built Cedarville with quiet dedication, who nursed its animals back to health, who sacrificed personal comfort to serve others. Instead, fairness was an abstract ledger where a war veteran's daughter might have to choose between her dog's medicine and this bill. As the morning slipped into afternoon, the weight of helplessness settled over her like a shadow. Calls from clients came in, some curious, others worried. Lisa struggled to focus, distracted by the constant gnawing anxiety. The parade, once a symbol of community pride, now felt like a weapon wielded by a faceless system indifferent to the human stories behind its spreadsheets. Her small reception area, once bright and welcoming, felt cold and confining. Posters of adopted pets and thank-you notes from grateful owners seemed to mock her predicament. The city's logic was a fortress she couldn't breach, a wall that threatened to crumble the fragile foundation of her practice. Yet, beneath the frustration, a spark of resolve began to kindle. Lisa wasn't someone to back down quietly. This was her city, her community, and her calling. If the system was blind to the cost it imposed, she would find a way to make them see the true cost of their cold calculus. But how? The question hovered, unanswered, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over Cedarville's quiet streets, a city on the brink of an unexpected reckoning. The envelope arrived unceremoniously. An unassuming tan manila folder slipped beneath the clinic's door during a lull between appointments. Lisa noticed it only because the heavy weight of the paper differed from the usual flyers and bills. The seal embossed on the flap bore the unmistakable insignia of the Pentagon, sharp and authoritative in deep navy blue. A quiet thrum of disbelief coursed through her as she carefully broke the seal, unfolding the thick official letter inside. The words within were precise and formal, yet laden with unexpected warmth. The Pentagon, it explained, was aware of the controversy swirling in Cedarville over the parade-related traffic fees. Far from being a mere bureaucratic formality, the letter conveyed a sincere recognition of Lisa's dedication, not just as a veterinary professional, but as a steadfast pillar of the community. It invited her, alongside a delegation from Cedarville, to attend an upcoming ceremony marking the arrival of a U.S. Navy warship in the nearby harbor. The invitation wasn't simply ceremonial, it was a profound gesture of national gratitude. The Navy's arrival was emblematic, a tribute to the sacrifices made by veterans and the unsung contributions of citizens like Lisa. The letter framed the event as a celebration of resilience, honor, and unity, a narrative that struck a deeply personal chord with her. Lisa sat back, the edges of the paper trembling slightly in her hands. This was no ordinary correspondence. It was as though the Pentagon had stepped beyond the cold boundaries of policy and statistics to extend a hand of solidarity, acknowledging that true service transcended official ledgers and municipal decrees. For the first time since the bill arrived, hope blossomed in her chest, faint but fiercely alive. Word of the invitation spread swiftly through the clinic and into the wider community. Local veterans organizations, initially wary of the controversy, embraced the opportunity to stand with Lisa. Pet owners, who had long trusted her with their beloved companions, rallied in support. Civic groups called meetings, crafting petitions, and planning peaceful demonstrations demanding the city rescind its punitive fees. The clinic, once a quiet refuge for healing, transformed into a hub of activism. Volunteers arrived with signs, letters, and stories. Each narrative threaded together a tapestry of Cedarville's true spirit, a town woven not just from bricks and roads, but from compassion, sacrifice, and a shared commitment to honor those who gave so much, both human and animal alike. Meanwhile, in the sterile offices of City Hall, Mark Hensley found himself caught in an uncomfortable crossfire. The once clear lines of policy blurred under the weight of public scrutiny and Pentagon influence. His insistence on uniformity clashed with the swelling chorus of empathy. Though trained to enforce rules without exception, Mark felt the stirrings of doubt. Questions about fairness, about the human cost hidden beneath his spreadsheets. Behind the rigid facade, he wrestled with a growing internal conflict. Could the city's machinery bend in deference to honor and community? Was it possible that the spirit of Memorial Day was not just a logistical headache, but a solemn obligation to protect those who served, whether in uniform or in the quiet acts of everyday devotion? As the date of the naval ceremony neared, Lisa's resolve solidified. The invitation was more than an event. It was a beacon, a reminder that courage came in many forms. Standing at the crossroads of adversity, she understood that this moment carried the potential to rewrite not only the narrative of her struggle, but also the soul of Cedarville itself. In that charged atmosphere of rising hope and mounting pressure, the city held its breath, caught between the rigid past and a future poised on the edge of change. The morning air at the Cedarville docks was crisp, laced with the salt tang of the nearby bay, as dawn's first light caught the steel hull of the U.S. Navy warship, a colossal silhouette that seemed to anchor the city's fractured spirit. Crowds gathered along the waterfront, a sea of faces marked by anticipation and quiet resolve. Veterans in worn uniforms stood beside families clutching banners. Neighbors leaned close, united not just by geography, but by a shared yearning for fairness and recognition. Lisa Montgomery, standing near the front of the gathering, felt the weight of the moment settle like a steady tide within her chest. The towering warship was more than a spectacle. It was a tangible symbol of sacrifice and service, an emblem of ideals that mirrored her own struggle. Her clinic, once threatened by cold bureaucracy, now pulsed with renewed energy, buoyed by the collective voice that had risen from Cedarville's heart. When the time came to speak, the microphone felt both a burden and a beacon in Lisa's hands. The crowd hushed, the murmurs folding into a stillness that amplified her voice with clarity and conviction. Today, she began, her eyes sweeping over the crowd, we stand not only to honor those who have served in uniform, but to recognize the strength that lies within every quiet act of care and sacrifice. Her words pierced the assembly like a clarion call, carrying the raw truth of her journey. A city's strength is not measured by fees or ledgers, but by how it lifts up those who serve quietly every day, whether through healing animals, supporting families, or preserving community. The resonance of her speech rippled outward, touching the souls of those present and challenging the steely resolve of city officials. Mark Hensley stood to the side, his usual rigid composure tempered by the undeniable force of public sentiment and the unmistakable weight of the Pentagon's endorsement. The faces around him, veterans, citizens, friends, reflected a unified demand for justice that no policy manual could dismiss. With a voice steadier than expected, Mark stepped forward. The crowd leaned in, breaths held tight. In light of today's ceremony and the overwhelming community response, he announced, the city will immediately withdraw the parade traffic fee imposed on Dr. Montgomery's clinic. This decision recognizes not only the spirit of Memorial Day, but the essential contributions of every Cedarville citizen. Relief cascaded through the crowd like a rising tide. Murmurs swelled into cheers, fists pumped skyward, eyes glistened with the release of pent-up frustration and pain. For Lisa, the moment was an emotional crescendo, not merely a victory over an unjust charge, but a vindication of the values that had guided her from the beginning. In the days that followed, Cedarville transformed. Lisa's clinic, once shadowed by uncertainty, flourished as a beacon of perseverance and community spirit. The story of the Pentagon's invitation and the city's reversal spread like wildfire, inspiring a broader awakening within the town. Conversations shifted, priorities realigned, and a renewed commitment to justice threaded through public discourse. The Memorial Day Parade evolved beyond its traditional form, becoming a living testament to unity and respect. More than banners and marching bands, it symbolized Cedarville's pledge to honor every citizen's contribution, visible or unseen. Lisa's voice, once quiet amid the chaos of bureaucracy, now echoed as a rallying cry, that even the smallest voices, when joined in purpose, could command the might of a warship and change the course of a community's heart. In that convergence of steel and spirit, Cedarville found its true strength, not in rules or fees, but in the unyielding bond of justice anchored in unity.